Hello, this is David Redekop, and I wanted to quickly show you a real-life example of a phish or an attempted phish. And what I'm showing you is what our own team received. And this is a South African administration team. So when you see something like notice of direct payment, it is something that a administration team is going to pay attention to, and at the very least look at it from a subject point of view. And if it didn't immediately escape you that it's got tax audit as a username without space, not showing which user or which organization it's from, yeah, okay, maybe. snreturns.co.za, that's actually not where SARS sends their messages from, but again, maybe you didn't. Maybe the end user doesn't know this. And the rest of the details, they are potentially legitimate looking, other than we also have a SARS online audit all in lowercase when really their actual communication is SARS all in uppercase. But let's say none of that got the attention of the persons receiving the mail message. Then they might have clicked on the message. And instead of me clicking on it, I'm just going to show you what the contents are of that message. So if you take a look at it here, the content of this message is that it is an iframe that ends up going to this URL. So let's take a look and go to that URL here and see what happens. If I go to that link now, it actually loads up a URL from a website that is like a news website. So to the untrained eye, this may not be obvious, but there's some Indian celebrity family news website that has been hacked to actually place phishing links on there. So unlike a lot of organizations that phishing organizations that will end up setting their own domain, in this case, they utilized an existing domain that's already getting traffic. So the phishing thieves are getting clever. But let's say that someone didn't notice that the fact that it's not a SARS-related website, not to mention that it's not in .za, it's not even a South African website. Why would it have a South African revenue service on a .in domain? But let's say all of that escaped a viewer and they said, okay, yes, you're right, we are with ABSA. Let me make sure I got my money. So this is where the phishing actually becomes really apparent. And by the way, 3 days into this, no one is blocking it. Umbrella isn't blocking it. We don't have the Cloudflare anti-theft. We don't have clean browsing. Nobody who operates on a blacklisting mode is blocking this yet today. So 3 days later, anybody who is vulnerable for phishing scams is still vulnerable. But now let me show you what would happen if you lived in the BrightWeb. So in the BrightWeb, we're just going to change our network settings on this computer to utilizing an internal network instead, so that this virtual machine ends up going behind a BrightWeb network. And then if I were to refresh this page now the badactor.co is being blocked. So that's my quick way of testing to make sure that I'm there. But now let me go to that same website that was operating the way before I could get to it. Now, because I'm on a policy with the BrightWeb, it says, wait a minute, that's actually not a part of your whitelist. And let's do a request unblock. And notice how this unblock request has immediately been rejected. So this is living in the BrightWeb, where access to attempted sites, it puts a little bit of an additional barrier. So the Atom 1 BrightWeb system puts in one additional barrier to say, first of all, a lot of these attributes of this spam message should have already notified us, should have already put us in a stop. But let's say we hadn't, and we just had a team member say, yeah, I do want to go there. They're still being trapped. This is a very typical scenario of a phishing scheme, because what happens is at that point the system investigated the destination website and did AI machine learning screenshotting of the destination and so forth, and collectively with the assessment process said, no, this is not a safe destination for you to go to, so the unblock request has been rejected. So that's what I wanted to show you, a real life example of what a phish looks like and how easy it is to fall into the trap of it. But one of your layers that might need to protect some people at somewhere along the line might end up being the BrightWeb.